like that. All right, you're gonna shoe polish black. Hey! What is up, world? You got Chief here with the
Mr. Americano.
Oh, that way, yes. We always seem to get that wrong. Hey, what's up, guys? I know it's been a while. It's been a whole week since the last time we got on the mic.
TGI.
Yes, we got to up that game, though. I think we got to start chatting more. I think we've been talking to some people on Instagram and on other sites, and I think we're gonna have some pretty cool guests coming up.
That'd be nice.
Chatting with some folks, and hey, we'll go get it. We're trying to up this thing, not just in our rooms anyway. So we got, man, there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot going on. I think I wanted to start talking about self-care. There's a lot going on right now between the stress of the news, stress of just walking outside, the stress of COVID, the stress of no work, no little money. And for me, and luckily to have one of my closest homies that can always be there. It's like the stress got to me a couple days ago, right? Like I felt like exhausted, felt like disconnected, and then like broke down and all that. Like hell, my hair is even kind of falling out because of the stress. But hey, I had to remember to take a step back, and even though this is really important, this isn't the only thing that's important. So, we ended up going to the park, running around with the god kids and taking some time with the dog and just kind of staying away from the phone for a little bit. So that was that.
You're not the first person that that I've talked to in the last few days that have sort of felt sort of the energy of the universe sort of feel overwhelming, and I explain it like we live in this 24-hour news cycle where you can sort of chase the rabbit as much as you want, and that's not a healthy thing, and it's in particular when you're on the phone and trying to engage in social media and playing in that part of the world in a different way. It's like those things take a mental toll, and if you don't take care of yourself physically as well as mentally, you can break down, because again, you look up and you're run down physically, you're tired, you're not getting sleep, irritable. So I think it's a good point. And especially again, as there's this last push towards the election, everybody wants to be on their best performance and have their best health. So, take care of yourself now, take your supplements, your vitamin C, your vitamin D, your
exercise,
your zinc, get your sleep. Yep.
Man, yeah. So I just personally, for me, I'm giving this shout out to everyone watching self-care, and special shout out to the Americano for having my back and being an ear ready to listen. But let's get going, man. There is just stuff and more stuff, huh?
Oh, man, it doesn't.
Where do you want to go? Let's go back. We can go back to go forward.
Okay.
And we can start by I'll go ahead and we let everybody know what's going on here. Apparently, Trump was right.
He was right about something finally, huh?
He was right about, well, they finally reported, but he was correct about the FBI and how they used the Russian asset for the dossier, things that we have been, it was from the beginning of it. We knew about it, and most people on the most conservatives and kind of most rational thinking individuals knew something was fishy about it. And this is from Newsweek, so it's not even people will call it something just because they can. But
yeah, that's a pretty they're pretty biased towards the anti-Trump rhetoric, so it's surprising for them to even have a headline like that.
Right.
But there have been people that have been obviously on the trail of this for years now, and frankly, I followed it way closer a year and a half or so ago, and then sort of the minutia of the day-to-day just sort of got too much to where I check in and try to stay relevant. But the stuff that's breaking on a daily basis is just nails in the coffin in terms of the conspiracy to rig the election, conspiracy to
overthrow a duly elected president,
set Trump up, to set anybody in his campaign up, and frankly, just the revelations that the people that were doing it were so closely tied to actual Russian people. It's kind of comical,
Russian agents. Man, it's just, I mean, this is kind of like a who's who. You got like Biden and the FBI, like Obama briefing. They told him to stay behind with Sally Yates and everyone discussing General Flynn. We know here that, and this was leaked, this was presented months ago, but most of the people weren't seeing it, that Biden himself was the one that suggested the
Logan Act,
the Logan Act that was never used in order just to do this. We have so many people, in the Mueller team who were taking out liability loans.
Yeah, professional liability insurance.
Well,
inside their internal text messages, we're talking about, I hope that nobody uses the Freedom of Information Act and gets access to these records because everything's just so far off. And, that I saw one of the things that, again, they try to be so cute and so funny, and they're so untouchable, right? They use, I believe one of the operations that they used was Operation Huge. It was like HUUUUGE, like in terms of just a reference to how Trump always says it. That was the name of like one of the operations. Yeah. Like, you guys aren't very original, man.
Insurance liability.
Yeah.
Fortunately, and I didn't know this till we saw this. Fortunately, federal employees can protect themselves and preemptively mitigate this risk through federal employee professional liability insurance.
Wow.
So they can literally, what they did with this man, General Flynn, they, threatened his son and bankrupt and all this stuff. And all they have to do is take out an insurance policy and they will never be held accountable for those actions. And they can spy on anyone because they spied on the president,
Well, I think it's just crazy that there's the option to actually get federal employee professional liability insurance. I mean, isn't that just a thing where it's probably not in perfect context, but I believe that's saying, like, if I basically F up here, I'm not responsible for it because this is a federal assignment, so to speak. And it's like,
which then goes to like, and we're seeing it in these documents. It's like, it goes to the idea of, like, depending on who's in charge, is they can just come after anybody, which they showed here. Mm-hmm. And they can come after people, and because they're working for the government, they'll be like, we're working for the government and we got insurance, so we're good for doctoring, documents and forging signatures and using a fraudulent dossier in order to get the FISA warrants, lying to the FISA court multiple times, using taxpayer money to run a fake investigation about this whole setup they did themselves. Like, imagine that.
And then burning the evidence of that investigation at the end.
Lying about it too.
Look, everything about it is beyond insane. And the seriousness of the things that they have done. Again, that's what's leading to their panic in terms of that rollout all the way to the burning of the cities. Because again, we know that all of those things are interwoven ultimately, right?
I mean, you talk about burning of the cities. It's not a coincidence yesterday, that we'll get on the Breanna Taylor stuff, but the fact that the reports came out about Hunter Biden and his financial dealings, which also included China, that Burisma making all that money, and that would corrupt, and a sex trafficking ring that he was supplying finances to. So,
and again, did you by chance see that Rand Paul referred that over to the Department of Justice for criminal investigation?
Man, I see that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then it comes out, the grand jury indictment, and you have everyone from people on the street to ESPN to NBA players, which is not surprising, but everyone coming out to Nancy Pelosi saying that she was murdered by the cops. Like,
yeah, I've heard really just the only appropriate word is incendiary, because again, it's like I'm aware enough to know that like we live in a hyperbolic world. Like it's all about hype, right? And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with even most things look through like a hyperbolic lens, but like incendiary things that are just basically like consciously misconstrued to lead to like make somebody angry. Like that's a really messed up thing, man. It's so messed up psychologically.
I mean, you have the Speaker of the House, not like you or me talking on our YouTube channel or podcast or whatever. Literally, the person that, in a sense, 2 heartbeats away and leads that side on messaging when it comes down to supposed to be leading in law and then trying to enact laws to help the people.
Speaking for
the people, and knowing there was a warrant says that this was an out murder. And it's like man, like I've been watching a lot of different people and like, well, you know, these things coming up and nothing's going to happen. But like, man, I don't know, dude. I don't know if I've ever really seen it in my lifetime, let alone the history books of it being so many at one time, like openly.
Well, no, like, you know, you're exactly right. Because again, like I'll be the first to admit that I wasn't overwhelmingly politically engaged, especially like during first Bush, you know, and even during Obama stuff until the whole financial collapse. But just think of language. Again, you and I talk about the power of the word, the power of language on both sides, right? On one side, again, you have Speaker of the House and everybody on that side of the party saying, you know, illegitimate president. We have to throw him out. Any means necessary, life or death vote, right?
But they're saying that knowing it's a lie. But we know that now.
But regardless, they're saying
yeah.
And then ultimately on the other side, you have Trump saying treason, sedition, you know, like all of these things. It's like the rhetoric on both sides is like, I mean, and again, we've never heard this kind of language back and forth from our political leaders in our lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, the rhetoric on both sides sounds, it's intense. But again, like right now, the left has nothing but lies.
Well, here's a good litmus test. And again, you said this the other day, and I thought that you made a really good point. Is the debate. We're 4 days out from the debate. A debate, you know, weeks ago that I told you I'm putting money right now that this thing ain't going to happen. But you basically said, look, if they say on Monday or Tuesday, look, Biden's not debating for whatever reason, it kind of shows that they're going to be willing to sort of pull off maybe some of the stuffs later off in this game, right?
Yeah.
But if they roll him up there and he performs, regardless of how he performs, it kind of just shows that like, these guys are just going to be bluffing. They're really not going to take it to this level. Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, because you see the questions for the debate. There's the questions and they're like, because watching Tim Pool and he was like, well, you know, I don't know why they would give it up early. That's to like help Biden get ready. And part of me is like, you know, it doesn't matter if they gave him a year, man. Like they said, policy, they're going to discuss the different policies. And I'm like, they're going to what? Like this one guy is denying that there's any violence going on in the cities at all. Then he turns around and saying it's someone else's fault. Then he's saying there's 200 million people dying from a thing that is not even close to that. Like it wrongfully has a lot of people overreaching, people getting arrested at football games and for not wearing a mask, with just their family by themselves, and you know, people losing their livelihood. And it's like you have this like what I believe it can't happen, man. Like it just like either
I play it fair. I really play it fair in terms of Biden, right? And there's sometimes that he sounds like basically like I would be concerned if he was a family member. And there's other times that there's instances for a few stretches he sounds coherent and okay, you know. But again, I would venture to say that's why Trump is asking for a pre-debate drug test, because again, they have this dude souped up on something short term, right? So my thing is, can this dude do this under the heat of the lights, sort of knowing that he has to defend his record, his son, against a dude again who you and I talked about, who has been having his chops sharpened on a daily basis for like 4 straight years.
Well, not even that, more than that. That's how he got buildings in different parts of the world. Like he's working businessmen who are trying not to give him the best deal. So,
Man.
I mean, when you talk to that, or when you go over where we've seen it over and over, that it's one side where Joe didn't have to work for anything and they cheat, and he's lied since the beginning about who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he even became vice president, I remember too, and I'll own up to this because I was all about Brock, in 08 and everything, and made phone calls and stuff I mentioned before. But the fact that he was up there as vice president, and like at no time was that video that we see now all over the place where it was like, was it Walter Cronkite or
Donaldson?
Yeah, Sam Donaldson was like, he did not graduate. He did not. It's like, this dude became vice president, and that whole time he was running, they didn't bring that up one time. And then now it's running left and right. And I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah, that was known at the time too, obviously.
I mean, there's people who, when you look back at how they even talked about him in the 80s, it was like he was a joke.
Yeah.
Like, he was a joke. And now all of a sudden, like, this guy, man,
look, I say that again. I always say this because people lose scope of it. It's like Trump was never supposed to win.
It's true.
So it would have been Hillary Clinton, and then she would have handed it off to whoever was next in either the Democrat or Republican, and Joe Biden would have ran off into the sunset. His son would have continued to have his business dealings. These people would have continued to rape and pillage across the world, but the fact of the matter is, as also, again, people forget that as as presidential candidate, he technically can't be investigated by like our intelligence community. Remember, that was basically part of the discussion when it was going to be, who's it going to be, Buttigieg or da-da-da. And I was like, man, they might just keep Joe in the race because they don't want these investigations being snooped at right now.
So when they say they technically can't investigate, doesn't that take us all the way back to 2016 and them spying on him again?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a mess. It's a mess. And frankly, and again, the thing that's frustrating, and the people that will listen to this video all the way through are probably relatively like-minded for what our general thinking is like, nothing's going to get done until the FBI director gets fired. Like what this dude comes out of this dude's mouth and what he allows and what's happened under his nose and what's just revealed this today and, what's going to be revealed tomorrow. It's like, now this dude's got to go. So does his number two, who signed the FISAs. And it's like, until that happens, that's why someone like me is just skeptical to the whole game, because it's like, we see Antifa, we see BLM. And again, we can say that there are whatever level of right-wing groups, but for the head of the FBI to come out and be like, Antifa, it's an idea. It's not like, we don't know about the funding. And, and at the same time, it's like everybody who's going to know this video knows what the funding looks like, and we're not all that smart. So it's like, it's a frustrating thing because obviously that's such an important position in organization in our government structure. And again, it's like those people are actively fighting against this administration. So that's what's frustrating.
So when you speaking of Antifa, I pulled up another nice little piece here that and this is from the Daily Mail? Yeah, Daily Mail Online. So we have so funny. So an old roommate of mine hit me up and was like, why do you support Trump? I was like, because he's, American first, and she was like, and also anti-black. And I'm like, here we go. It was one of those things. And I'm like, well, okay, so I know what things look like when they're anti something. And I don't know if this is the same thing as anti when all these ads. Anyway, when you look up and it's like, he's going to designate, like, right here, he unveils his $500 billion economic platinum plan for Black Americans, and would designate the KKK and Antifa as terrorist organizations and make Juneteenth a federal. Man, this is the weirdest racist I've ever seen, man. Like, from what I've taught about what racists do, like, what?
The thing that I found is interesting, and I heard a Black woman make the statement. It's like, just by the demographics of our country, right?
Yeah.
He does not, frankly, have to do this. He doesn't quote unquote have to pander to get the black vote to win the general election or the electoral college, but every single time that he makes a speech or every time that he makes a big policy frankly for the good of the country, the general population, it really speaks to trying to help out the black community.
It does.
And, he doesn't have to do that.
No, not at all. That's the thing that gets me, and like I guess I think I said before, it's like anytime any people that I know, black folks I know that come at me about it, and I'm like, you heard of the First Step Act? And they're like, no, what's that? Right? And it frustrates me because it's like they're so passionate, like you said, they believe this thing, right? It's so passionate about it, but yet they won't even do their research. And it's like now I'm wondering if that same person has the ability to just look up and look up from the anger, look up from the deception and go, this doesn't add up to being anti-black. It doesn't add up. It doesn't. I mean, he signed another executive orders that's going to give $200 to seniors so they can for their prescription medication. They did that as well. It's like
hey, look. I mean, while we're on executive orders, another one was again that the born baby. The one that guaranteed basically emergency care and health care to a child that was born and obviously
was it when they tried to do an abortion and then it survived?
Yeah.
So they can't do the late term or was it
post?
Basically killing. They can't just kill babies.
Yeah.
Like who would come out of the womb. We were watching that at Trump over in Atlanta. That was pretty cool, man. We were watching some of these guys said,
he talked for a long time.
He did.
I love it.
He likes to talk though. He likes to talk, and to be honest with you, he loves to chat when he's around his people. And I think that's the one thing that gets me about this whole thing that he's racist. When you see he loves him and Mike Tyson are homies, guys like Herschel Walker, these kind of alpha males, and it's I think he has that thing where I notice where just some people just dig being around black folks. And I feel that's how he kind of is. I feel he can just he tries to just loosen up even more, but he's I'm here, I'm ready to just chill out. And
that's low key. That's low key been his reputation since the 80s at least. So,
and now it's and that brings me to that one point where, that preacher was talking and it was really cool. Cause he's saying how when he went to meet him, Trump was comes up as Trump gives him that Trump thing, right? And he's all right, well, that's kind of weird for a racist, right? And he's they were sitting down and they're going to do prayer. And he was let me check it out. Cause he's standing there next to his daughter, right? Ivanka. Mm-hmm. And she's and she was pregnant at the time. And he said, she grabbed his hand and was come on, let's pray, grabbed it. And he said, I thought, man, would a child of a racist be grabbing my hand to pray, like this? Mm-hmm. And it's, I mean, it's a little anecdote, and it's just kind of these moments where it's come on. I don't even even having this conversation about it is ridiculous when you look at the numbers and you look at everything that he actually has done for the community. But it's we're sitting here because they keep trying to spin this thing, and I don't really understand it. How so many black folks can be he is this thing, and you look at move after move after move after move that's well,
they don't. Here's the thing: they don't see those moves. That's why they don't know what the First Act is. They don't know why the First Step Act. They don't know what he did for the historically black colleges for the 10-year guarantee. So again, it's that's why you can't break through to certain people when you do present them with that information. They do kind of have that come to God moment where it's maybe he isn't as bad, and then they get into the investigation of their own, right? But again, it stems from if they're not out seeking to watch a whole rally, which again, who in us really want to sit down and watch a whole political rally unless you're a fan of the guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, he is kind of funny, man. If you
go, you don't like him, you don't think he's funny. You know what I mean? It's if I'm not going to plug in to watch a Chuck Schumer or a Nancy Pelosi or an AOC thing, right? Just because
Nancy's short circuiting every other time. Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah,
it's Sunday morning.
I mean, and and again, it just the stark contrast.
Yeah.
Between this workhorse, the dude is a workhorse, And then he's going to be going against Biden on Tuesday. It's the craziest thing. I'm like, I don't see it happening. Biden's eyes might start bleeding. They were bleeding in the earlier debate.
What's that thing you said he's doing right now where he caps off?
He puts a lid on his day.
Starting at 9 a.m.
What are they doing? What are they doing with this guy? They're just sitting there. He's making Hillary Clinton look like she had good health.
She was running around, looked like she was shaking hands and kissing babies, man. Like I am just, you put a cap on starting at 9 a.m. and with a straight face.
35, 40 days out from a presidential election. That's, this is one of the things that I was going to say the next time that I have one of these conversations with someone who doesn't want to give me space. I'm like, do you know how well Democrats get jobs done? This is the best candidate that they could come up with. The representation of this young progressive movement is the antithesis of that.
Yeah.
It's like that's the best they could do. Think about that. We're sitting, and again, I hope that this debate goes down. And I hope that he's coherent enough to make his points and to have this interaction, because it's like this, as someone who again thinks that I know his economic record, and again you could just go through what went down as a vice president with Benghazi and with all of these, Iran and all of these Fast and Furious, and he was a point guy,
straight up charisma.
He was a point guy he was a point guy in Ukraine, and what happened with China under him. It's like let's let this guy explain this stuff.
He's been running and hiding from right now. And everyone's okay with that. Like it gets to the point where to me, I think it's like their work they've done their work well, where it's like people don't even know what a real leader looks like when they see it in front of them, as opposed to someone who's not a leader. Whether you're talking about Kaepernick, who kept his mouth shut this whole time, but also now he's a hero in some people. Like I had one friend say, "Oh, well, all leaders have to speak up." I'm like, yeah, if you're head of a movement, you do. You don't have to sit there quietly. Then you're just a pawn, which we see. Same thing with LBJ and all those other fools, man. It's like these aren't real leaders, but yet have we really had them in a while? And then when somebody comes up, they demonize him and say he's the worst person. But like, dude,
you know what?
Years, look what he's done. Like,
well, let me piggyback off that, because again, it's a positive thing. This is a good sign, and this is one of the best takeaways of listening to a little bit of Trump's speech today in Atlanta. And I mentioned it to you when we were going to lunch, the fact that there are 45 African Americans running for Congress in this country right now as Republicans. That's amazing. Not all of them are going to. Not all of them.
Please, if you've heard that already, then leave a comment below, because I don't know how. I just heard that today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, not all are going to win, but if a good proportion does, percentage wise, and then maybe the next time that comes around, maybe that number isn't 25, but maybe it's 70. And then maybe that representation just gets so big. And again, you're talking about, again, I don't know policy level. I don't know everything about them, but heavy hitters like that girl Kim Klacik in Baltimore.
Yeah. You see her recent commercial?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I even comment. You know me, I don't comment. I even comment.
It like showed a vision of the future of that city in a way where I was like, whoa. I was like, these guys are on a different level.
And again, we've had the experience and had the opportunity to, again, not thinking he's a perfect by any stretch, but Joe Collins here in LA that's going up against Maxine. It's like I like a lot of what Joe stands for and his people.
He's willing to actually have a debate with her, and she's running and hiding. Again, these are leaders we want, people who hide.
Yeah, Eric Early here, trying to go up against Adam Schiff. So, he's not a black guy, but again, there's people that
they're having a debate, and I want to go to that because I'd love to see what Schiff has to answer for. He's starting another impeachment, so we'll see how that works with some more Russian evidence. He has more Russian evidence.
Yeah,
I don't know. These people, I feel like the wool is being pulled like away, and people, they have to like swallow a lot of things, they have to deal with a lot of stuff. Speaking of which, we saw like, we mentioned it last week about Ruth Bader and, again, rest in peace. But, it shows in the response from the left, it shows what they really think about human beings. You know, people saying you could have just stayed alive till after the election. Like, how could you do? Like, it's like she did it to them. Like her, what was she? 89? How old was she?
She's 80, 89, I believe. Yeah.
88, 89-year-old who's suffering from colon cancer for multiple years is somehow disappointing you because they didn't stay alive. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong with these people? So they can keep the right to kill babies without question.
That's that's a real big priority, you know. And
like, that's what else does it look like to me? To anyone. They're booing him, saying vote him out when he goes and pays his respects. It's like they don't care about life. They'll scream about that all day, but they don't care. I mean, look at BLM. How many times do we talk about it all the time? How many times do we talk about actually innocent people? I'll wait.
Yeah.
The women's movement, how many times did they talk about like women on the other side of the aisle, men who were getting abused? You didn't hear them really talk about that stuff at all. So it's like, was this Me Too movement? Was it really about like bringing, power to, what is it? Accountability to power, whatever they said, But
yeah, man, look, man, as we grow up and as we sort of, again, sort to see the landscape and understand the dynamics of the certain factions is whatnot. It's there's a lot of negative, right, that we have to contend with, right? But at the same time, I have to say that, like, I feel, as we get ready to wrap this up, I feel like the tide is continuing to shift in our favor. Like you just said, the cloak on these people is being pulled back every single day. Trump isn't having to act in a dictatorial fashion and go in with feds and break up these protests and look like he's heavy-handed so they can use that excuse. It's like,
I mean, even when he does it being requested, they use that excuse.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter. But we saw what happened over in Louisville, how 130 got arrested, and that thing ended pretty quickly.
Yeah. I don't know what the fireworks are going to be in the last 40 days. And again, I heard someone earlier today make the point where it's like, again, it's 40 days till the election.
Yeah.
But we're still like 115 days from the inauguration. So it's like, again, during those lawsuits afterwards.
I'll find it interesting. And one little point before we go, it's like, I think about all these arrests and the federal arrests because they're losing people. They're losing people, and we saw the U-Haul truck and all this stuff, organizing. It goes back to someone who works for a foundation that is extremely leftist, and like, come on, like these people are like, we'll say here, let's talk. Somebody wrote on our Instagram, Rico. So hopefully we get that Rico Act, man, because I think a lot of people, you saw when he said sedition, that siege on the White House just went away real quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
Start using these real laws, because these real laws have real consequences, and these people have been playing in like fantasy land for the last 12 years of their life at least.
Yeah.
Start seeing these laws, and you said play stupid games and win stupid prizes, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. With that, guys, we'll let you go. Enjoy your Friday night. We're out and about in the next couple days, running around trying to speak our mind, speak the truth, because it's not just ours anymore. It's the truth. You can go look it up and look at the numbers for yourself, and like, subscribe, and share. We'll talk to you later. Should I go like ba da ba da da da, because we can't.